The midnight encounter at the military camp. When my father first shared this story with me during my childhood, it sent shivers down my spine. Now, as I recount it here, every detail remains etched in my memory. Before diving into the heart of the tale, let me provide some context, a backdrop that sets the stage for the eerie incident. Bear with me. These details are crucial to understanding the chilling elements of the story. Back in 1985, my father, then a 19-year-old, served in the Greek Army's Special Forces within the Paratrooper Division. In Greece, military service is mandatory for every young person who reaches their 18th birthday. These soldiers were stationed in military camps, often nestled deep within the countryside. These remote outposts were surrounded by vast expanses of wilderness, and the nearest town lay 3 kilometers away. On that fateful night, my father found himself assigned to guard duty at the camp. Each night, 5 to 6 soldiers took turns standing watch, sharing the same barracks. The routine was well established. Half an hour before the shift change, another soldier would enter the room, rousing the new batch of guards. They'd prepare themselves and then take their positions. The shifts lasted 2 hours, and the 12 o'clock a.m. to 6 o'clock a.m. stretch was particularly grueling. Winter nights were brutal. The biting cold seeped through their uniforms, and the guards fought to stay awake while stationed beside their booths. The only way to maintain vigilance and stave off the chill was to pace, taking a few steps up and down to keep blood flowing. As the clock struck 2 o'clock a.m., my father stood next to his booth, rifle in hand, enveloped in absolute silence. The moon, though helpful for visibility, couldn't reveal everything. Shadows danced, especially at longer distances, and the tree lines in the distance remained mysterious. And then it happened. A tall, dark mass emerged from the path, emerging from the tree line. It moved deliberately, heading straight toward my father's booth. His heart skipped a beat as he locked eyes on the approaching figure. Fear gripped him, real, visceral fear. The mass glided forward, almost floating, taking slow, deliberate steps. My father followed protocol. He raised his rifle, aimed, and shouted, "Halt! Identify yourself." But there was no reply. The shadow continued its inexorable advance. Again, he yelled, "Halt! Identify yourself." Still, nothing. At this point, my father was convinced he faced a real-life ghost. He weighed his options. Should he engage? Could a ghost be killed? The alarm code loomed in his mind. The next guard, hundreds of meters away, would hear his scream and relay it down the line. The patrol, an officer and 5 soldiers, would investigate. But the patrol might take precious minutes to reach his booth, and the penalty for falsely raising the alarm was prison time. Additional days tacked onto his service. The eerie figure drew closer minus 50 meters away now. My father braced himself, ready to fire. And then, a voice cut through the tension. "Relax. My father's last name. It's me." Another soldier, draped in a black blanket, stumbled into view. He reeked of alcohol, having sneaked back into camp after a night of revelry in the nearby town. My father let him pass, knowing that the drunk soldier would face serious consequences for raising the alarm without cause. As the patrol arrived, my father kept silent about the drunk soldier. The officer merely said, "We'll see each other in the morning." The next day, during the penalty announcements, my father's name remained unspoken. An alarm rarely rang out, and nobody questioned him. It turned out that the patrol officer and the ghostly figure were buddies. The drunk soldier had spilled the beans, but the officer had pulled strings to shield my father from punishment. And so, my father carried the secret. A tale of moonlit encounters, unexpected twists, and bonds forged between the living and the enigmatic. To this day, he wonders about that spectral visitor. Restless spirit, nocturnal trickster, or something else entirely. Perhaps the officer's intervention was more than mere friendship. Maybe it was fate itself, veiled in shadows. As the sun rose the next morning, my father braced himself for the consequences. The penalty announcements were about to begin. Soldiers stood in line, their hearts pounding. Would his name be called out? Would he face prison time for falsely raising the alarm? But to his surprise and immense relief, his name remained unspoken. The officers went through the list, meting out penalties for various infractions. Yet my father's transgression went unnoticed. No mention of the ghostly encounter, no additional days added to his service. It was as if the incident had evaporated into thin air. Curious, my father sought answers. Why hadn't he been penalized? The truth emerged. The patrol officer, the same one who had investigated the alarm, was friends with the mysterious figure. The drunken soldier had spilled the beans, revealing that my father wasn't the culprit. The officer, perhaps amused by the whole affair, had pulled strings to protect him. And so, my father carried the secret with him, the tale of the ghostly visitor and the unexpected twist of fate. He wondered about the enigmatic figure. Was it a restless spirit, a trick of the night, or something else entirely? To this day, he remains haunted by that moonlit encounter, grateful for the officer's intervention and the bond forged between two soldiers, one living and one, well, who knows?